I would just like to once again welcome you. My name is Jacob Ngandu, and it's such a privilege to host you this evening, such a great honor. And I will be joined by Roy, who's my co-host for hosting you this evening. And as I was reflecting on this evening, I just remembered on one of my most challenging moments some years ago. I was ready to shut down a struggling department in my first business. I had tried everything, and from where I was, I saw that there was no way forward. But then, before pulling the plug, I reached out to a mentor, Scott Marks, who is on this call, who was at that time running Imtech sales. He looked at the numbers and then he asked me one simple question: Jacob, is the business unit making a profit? I said, hey, Scott, look at the numbers. They're making something. And then he replied with something that I'll never forget. He says, Jacob, if the business unit is making $1 profit, you don't shout it down. He told me after I had narrated the challenges I was facing that my real issue was not the business. It was a difficult business partner. And he says, Jacob, you need to have a tough conversation. It's either he shapes up or he shoots out. And from there, after that tough conversation, everything changed. That same department went on to contribute over 60% of our total revenue, and it carried us through some very difficult times. Now, just imagine if I hadn't had a seasoned business leader like Scott, who is still indeed a mentor, what could have happened to that business? Not only that business, but the livelihood of those who are being supported by that business. And maybe you, just like me, or how I was, facing a tough call, a tough decision, a tough moment in your business or in your job or career. Or perhaps you just want to scale up your business or leadership to the next level. Well, tonight is that reminder that the right mentor doesn't just have to give you advice, but they can change the outcome and the trajectory of your business and your leadership. That's the power of mentoring, and that's the conversation that we have this evening. And the Hangout, which is based at River of Life Church, have the privilege to partner with Ardent Mentoring, and they will be sharing with us on mentorship and legacy, building a legacy that will outlive you, and scaling from where you are to a place of significance. In a moment, Roy, I think we will ask Scott to open for us in prayer, and I'll hand over to Lionel and Ryan and their team, and they'll take us into a deep dive of what we've come here for this evening. Scott, over to you.
Father, thank you so much for all the preparation that has led up to this point, the work that you have done in each of our hearts, the work that you have done to join us together. And thank you for all that this represents for the onward advance of your gospel and your kingdom and your glory through your people, reaching the world and bringing blessing to all the nations. Father, we really praise you for this time and ask that you would work out your mighty purposes as we join together. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Jacob, for that testimony and warm welcome. And Scott, again, thank you for opening us up in prayer. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lionel Maruma Hoko. Over the course of my leadership journey as a senior executive spanning 30 years across Africa and other continents, I've had the privilege of leading through many challenging environments. I've learned that leadership is not about what you achieve alone, but it's really about who walks with you. I mean, we heard from Jacob giving a testimony of his story, and the reality of it is that no leader succeeds alone. At every critical point in my career, mentors have spoken into my life. They saw what I could not see, helped me avoid costly mistakes, and they actually accelerated my growth. And their wisdom shaped my leadership and ultimately shaped my legacy. So leaders, this evening, as we join this call, I know your time is very valuable. You are here because you want to lead well, not only for today, but also for the future. We are committed to making this session worth every minute, and I promise you, we're going to finish on time. And this webinar is not just about leadership talk. It's a two-way discussion, and the power and success of today's sessions depends on your engagement. You know, as we move throughout this session, please write your questions in the chat, and I'll bring them into our Q&A to ensure that your voices actually start to shape the conversation. And I'm looking forward to the dialogue and discussion we're going to have today. So again, to just get us grounded, you know, today we will explore two things that are vital for every leader. The first thing is that, you know, how do you receive mentoring? You know, how do you sharpen your leadership edge, you know, gaining perspective and thriving even in disruption? The second thing is we have an obligation. How are you going to give back? You know, intentionally investing in the next generation of leaders who, by the way, are watching us and waiting for our guidance. So over the next hour, you will hear real stories of transformation, learn practical frameworks in navigating complexities, and leave knowing three things: what you gain from mentoring, what's expected of you, how to take immediate action to multiply your influence and legacy. Now, it's my honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you someone very, very special to me to this conversation, none other than Ryan King, who's the CEO of Ardent Mentoring. And more than that, he's a brother in Christ whom I have the privilege of working with over the last 3 years. And during this time, I've seen his unwavering commitment to helping leaders not only achieve success, but also discover their true significance. And through Ryan's leadership, Ardent Mentoring has helped CEOs, entrepreneurs across the globe navigating complexity, building resilient organizations, and lead with purpose. He understands both challenges and leadership and the power of mentorship to transform lives and businesses. Today, Ryan will share why mentoring works worldwide and why is it so relevant to an environment such as Zimbabwe, where volatility and uncertainty is also part of everyday business. And with those few words, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hand over to none other than Ryan King. Ryan, over to you now.
Lionel, that is a humbling introduction. Your friendship and your partnership have changed my life, and I'm excited as we are committed to changing lives throughout the Zimbabwe, throughout the continent of Africa, and around the globe. Jacob, thank you for your partnership. The ministry of the Hangout has impressed me, and I honor you for the work that you're doing. Scott, thank you for your ministry and the team that you lead. We've not gotten to know each other well, but the videos I've watched from you, I know I could sit in your church and listen to you preach for many years and leave inspired. Good afternoon and good evening to everyone on the call. Thank you for taking your precious time to join us. The first thing I know about entrepreneurship and leading businesses and leading organizations is that we're busy and that our time is precious. So I want to thank you for being here today with us. My name, once again, is Ryan King, and I have the privilege of leading Ardent Mentoring as the CEO. And the very first thing I wanted to share with you today is that the high capacity, highly successful executive mentors that Ardent offers globally to the entrepreneurs and enterprises that we support have everyday wisdom that is gold to those of us that are on the entrepreneurial journey. Two mentors that have radically changed my life are here on this call. They're also co-founders of Ardent Mentoring with me. You'll get to hear from one today named Lloyd Reeb. The other is Chris Crane on the call. Chris, you could just wave your hand and say hello. These two men have been incredibly successful in the real estate industry and have decided to dedicate the second half of their lives to changing the world and leaving a legacy that will live on far beyond them and transform the world potentially in greater ways than they were able to do within their own lives. And I know from them, I have learned that delegating authority not tasks, is the way to grow your business. I have learned from them that when we are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, we need to halt before we make decisions. And I've learned to them to keep it simple, stupid, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes we can get so worked up in the work that we're doing and so stressed out. And it's like, hold on, stop. The work that we're doing is transformative. The work that we're doing can change lives. It can change economies. And I know throughout Zimbabwe, a very agriculture economy, an up and coming technology economy, one full of entrepreneurs, and one that represents a phenomenal SME market that really has the potential to transform the country of Zimbabwe, can greatly benefit from the mentors that Ardent has to offer. Specifically, Ardent matches impact-driven enterprises and entrepreneurs with highly successful, faith-driven mentors who have the specific expertise to help you solve problems, drive growth, and transform lives by helping you multiply your impact. The type of mentoring we offer is a little bit of mentoring reimagined. It brings together coaching, it brings together consulting, it brings together spiritual direction as our mentors provide what we like to call executive subject matter expertise mentoring. And this type of mentoring, it influences the globe. It is available in every country around the world that entrepreneurs are willing to partner with us from. And it is contextualized based on the needs of the entrepreneurs we serve. It can speak directly to Zimbabwe, but even more so, it can speak directly to the needs that you have as a leader, as a founder, and as a CEO. And even if your mentor is from a different country, I know, Lionel, we have connected you with mentors from the Philippines, from the US, from Europe, and from Africa. And each time, Lionel, you've been able to speak specifically into their lives and offer them wisdom and advice that directly influences the decisions they're making and the work that they're doing. And so I encourage you to connect with us. If you're wondering today, can a mentor from another country help me? My answer to you is yes, with an exclamation point at the end. Our mentors have the wisdom and the expertise to help you work through the situations that you're going through, take advantage of the opportunities in front of you, learn what you've yet to learn yet, see what you're blind to right now. And we help you work through your needs. And sometimes those needs require a mentor that is very understanding of your context. Sometimes it requires a mentor that is from the areas of the world you serve. But often we find most important is that you need a mentor who has the experience and the expertise, the skills and the competencies that directly match the situations you're going through. Sometimes our mentees transform throughout the process and their needs change and they switch to a new mentor because we are so focused on the specifics of what you're going through. Those are our uniquenesses, that we are focused on the specifics of what you're going through, that your mentoring comes to you one-on-one in a whole person approach where we're not just concerned about your business, but we're also concerned about your well-being, your faith, your family, your work-life balance, your identity separate from your role at your company, the things that lead to sustainable success. Too often I've watched successful founders and CEOs grow a business that is successful on the outside, but on the inside, they're sacrificing something far more near and dear in their own well-being, in their marriage, in their families. And so we're concerned about you as a whole person. And lastly, we chose to launch Ardent, not as a for-profit, even though we thought about it. We chose to launch it as a nonprofit so that we could make it affordable to people around the world, so that money would never stand in the way of mentoring, that finances would never keep you from getting the transformation that you need. And so I'm really excited on this call to announce that in a partnership with the Hangout, the CEOs that we're going to serve, we are going to offer you 50% off your mentoring. We're going to take what is normally $100 to $400 per session, and we're going to reduce that to $50 to $200 per session based on the size of your company. And in turn, we're going to ask that you would pour back into the Hangout. We believe the Hangout has the power to transform Zimbabwe, has the ability to raise up new leaders and future CEOs and executives. And we want to implore you to pour into that ministry. And so together, we're going to partner to transform your life through the executive mentoring that we will provide you in an effort that you would in turn pour out into the next generation coming through the Hangout, coming through the River of Life Church. And we are just so excited about this partnership. And so today, I want to ask that you would really think deeply about the needs that you have. And you'll hear towards the end of the call some of the takeaways, but you can go right to our website. And from our website, you're able to schedule a discovery call with us. And on that discovery call, we can begin to talk about the needs and the challenges that you have, the opportunities in front of you, and match those with the skills and the competencies of our mentors. We can talk about the industry you're working within and the context that you're serving within. And we can match that to the experience and the expertise of our mentors. And we also ensure that our mentors are inspired by the work that you're doing and the impact that you're making, because these are highly successful, highly capable, high capacity individuals who have volunteered their time to work with you. And what I find to be a large part of our special sauce, if you would call it that, what makes us successful, what has led to the over 200 enterprises we have served in 30 plus countries around the world in our first 3 years of operations, is that you get an expert who can truly help you transform that is solely in your corner. They're not your boss. They're not on your board. They're not investing in your organization or donating to your nonprofit. They are there for you. You can share the good, the bad, and the ugly with them, the business and the personal, and your conversations are confidential. And they can truly lead to your transformation. On this note, I would love at this moment to introduce you to Yvette. And unfortunately, Yvette is unable to join us today. She's had some sickness with her mother. If you are a praying person, I would implore you to pray for Yvette's mother. She's in transit right now to go see her mom, so she's not able to join us today. I will put in the chat a link to our impact page, and you will see that we have highlighted Yvette first thing on our impact page, not in preparation for this call. Yvette was already there, highlighted on our impact page long before we scheduled this call, because Yvette has been an Ardent mentee. She's been an Ardent mentor because of the incredible skills she has as an entrepreneur and an executive leader at the Synapis Group in Kenya, founder of an incredible Kenyan tea company, some tea I drink every morning and is delicious and I share, and the founder of a new healthcare initiative to help hospitals throughout Kenya reduce costs and serve more patients. We have highlighted her, and she would tell you of the transformation that Ardent has brought you. So I encourage you to watch that video. But without further ado, since Yvette is unable to join us and give us her testimony, we're going to move on to our main event, to a gentleman who has shown me how to operate in business from working from a place of peace. When you work from a place of peace, rather than stress or angst or worry, you find success a lot sooner. You enjoy what you do a lot more. You lead your people in a way that they want to work for you, that they look forward to going to work in the morning because they know they're not walking into an environment that is going to distract them or disrupt their day. They're walking into an environment where they're going to be respected, honored, and where they are being led by a servant leader. And one of the best servant leaders I know is Lloyd Reeb. Lloyd is an incredible entrepreneur, a very successful real estate entrepreneur who was able at 32 years old to transform his life, to think of the second part of his life to making a significance. He wrote a book called Success to Significance. He founded the Halftime Institute, which operates in 62 plus countries around the world, helping successful men and women who are Christian entrepreneurs dedicate the second half of their life to success. And he now leads the 100X group, a group that is helping entrepreneurs with $25 million of net worth or greater think about how they're going to 100x their life and leave a legacy that will transform lives ongoing. So without further ado, Lloyd, I would like to turn this over to you. I am so excited to learn from you, and I'm so thankful for your time today.
Thank you, Ryan. When I was in my early 40s, my mentor took me aside, asked me to come sit in his office. And he said, Lloyd, I've been thinking about you, young man. I'd like you to make 2 lists on that pad of paper in front of you. I'd like you to divide it down the middle. And on one side, what I want you to start with is write down everything you have that's valuable. So I started writing. I was kind of excited. It was, we were developing retirement communities for seniors, for old people like me. And we had a farm, and we had some other toys, boats, and I made a big long list. He said, great, good job. Big smile. He said, now on the other side, I want you to write down everything you have that's priceless. Now think about that for a second. I mean, it literally took the wind out of my sails. What was priceless? And I started writing. And it wasn't that many things. But it became very clear to me that some things in my life were valuable, even very valuable. And a few things in my life were priceless. And then he said, okay, good. Now let's talk about what you're doing to protect them. You can already see the power of a mentor, can't you? Just in those few seconds, he changed my thinking. Lo and behold, as I went through the things that were valuable, they were largely protected. They were insured. My investments were diversified. I had done all those things to make sure that the valuable things in my life were protected. And lo and behold, many of the priceless things in my life were largely unprotected. I wasn't paying very close attention to my health. My marriage was good, but it wasn't great. I had to confront the fact that there were things in my life that were truly priceless, that I was trading for things that were valuable. And he pointed out to me that it never makes sense to trade something that's priceless for something that's merely valuable. And he pointed my heart towards getting clarity about my legacy. What do you really want? He asked me a fundamental question that I ask every mentee now. Lloyd, if your life turned out perfectly, what would the elements be? Imagine, he said, if it's 30 years from now, you'd be 70, he said. I'm 63 today. Time's flying. Suppose 30 years from now, when you're 70 and you're sitting on a bench, you and I are sitting together, and I look over at you, I say, Lloyd, it went so quick. Those 30 years went so quick. How did it go for you? Suppose you look off in the distance. And then you look back at me and you say, you're not going to believe it. Those 30 years went perfectly. What would be those things you'd have to scroll through in the back of your mind to draw that conclusion? Those are long-term metrics. I wrote down answers. They have guided me for the 23 years since then. And you can see the power of a mentor, but you can also see the power of gaining clarity around what you really want long-term. And I want to take you deeper now into that journey. And I want to look at what really is the legacy that you want. And in particular, Jesus told a story of these soils. He said, don't be the shallow soil that never, where what has been planted in your life never germinates. Don't be the soil that gets entangled with all the complexities of life, busyness. Don't get enamored with what he called the deceitfulness of riches. Think of that term, the deceitfulness of riches. But he said, be the good soil. Now, here's what he described the good soil. You can see on the screen there. This is how you and I build a 100x life. The other soils, like seed sown in good soil, hear the word, accept it, and produce a crop some 30, 60, 100 times what was sown. In other words, could it be possible that you and I could cultivate a noble and good heart, have a systematic way of listening to God and God's word, take it in and apply it even when it's risky and costly, and persist. When you look at the three places where Jesus told this parable, those are the four things we're told to do. Cultivate a noble and good heart. Listen to me regularly, every day. Take time away in silence to listen to me. Take in what I say and put it into practice, and persist at it over time. And so I want to ask you, what does that look like in your life? Now, here's the question that I was confronted with by my mentor those many years ago. Lloyd, do you want to build a life of accumulating valuable things? Or do you want to invest your life in people and savoring the priceless impact? It was a fork in the road. At the time I was a real estate developer, and at that year I was developing this piece of property, this land, this building that you can see on your left. It's a beautiful retirement community for people. And I went to see a guy named Patrick Kelly, 75-year-old real estate developer. This building's in Canada near Ottawa. And Patrick Kelly was a well-known developer in Canada. He was considering moving into this building, and I went to see him in his home. I walked up 8 steps to this big, beautiful white home, and I walked in, and it was silent. He took me all around his house and showed me pictures of buildings he had built all over Canada. He built the first indoor mall in Toronto. And we went through this sale process. I walked out the door. I was so excited. Patrick Kelly has decided to move into my retirement community. And at the top of the stairs, on my way out, I thought to myself, if I stay focused and I work hard, I could be just like him one day. But by the time I got to the bottom of the stairs, I said to myself, if I am not careful, I'm going to end up like him someday. It turned out there were no pictures. There were no people in those pictures. They were just buildings. In fact, that indoor mall that he built, the Eaton Center, has been torn down in Toronto. It doesn't exist anymore. His wife was largely frustrated by him. His kids were disenfranchised by him. They weren't in a relationship with him. His health is deteriorating. And I made up my mind that I'm never going to trade the priceless things in my life for the things that are just valuable. And today, I would trade any one of these buildings for this smile on Linda's face. So what will it be in your life? What is the difference between the priceless things and the valuable? I think the valuable things are things that you can exchange for something of equal value. But what makes something priceless, like Linda's smile, is you can't exchange it for anything of equal value. So a wise investor, here's what a wise investor does to gain a 100x return on life, is they build valuable assets like your abilities as a business leader, your influence, your wealth, and your skills. These are very valuable assets, but they're not priceless. And then you trade those valuable assets for priceless things that will last for eternity. Remember, no fool is he who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. And then you focus on savoring and protecting and enhancing these priceless things in your life. And the unwise investor looks for the fastest and easiest route to the cash, to the wealth, and then trades priceless things along the way, like your reputation, your health, your relationships, years of your life to gain wealth. And then ultimately trade the wealth for things that simply don't last, chasing a mirage to a destiny of regret. And what we want to encourage you to do is to take everything you have, the leverage, your wisdom, expertise, spiritual maturity, relational intelligence, financial stewardship, your network. Gosh, I do so much right now just by connecting people. I had 2 meetings this morning, just connecting the person who used to be the chief operating officer for the American U.S. Army with a great leader that'll help him make the best use of the next season of his life. After all, Jesus invested in 12 people, mentoring them. And in so doing, you will gain compounding kingdom impact. This is something that I never learned in my 30s and 40s. You've studied how wealth compounds. It's magical, right? If you leave an investment, don't mess with it. If it compounds at 10% a year, you're going to end up incredibly wealthy. Just takes time. No one ever sat me down and said, your kingdom impact compounds over time. So invest early and invest deeply, counting on God to multiply it 30, 60, or 100 times. Now, in the top left corner is Peter Drucker, and he's known all over the world, obviously, as the father of modern management theory. And I got to know him when he was in his 80s. He died at 95, but he mentored Bob Buford, and this is my mentor, Bob Buford. You can see I'm much younger. I had some dark hair still, Ryan. I know you're chuckling at me. I look like you back then, 25 years ago. I don't know how I aged so fast, but there was Bob, classic mentoring posture, right, Ryan? Hey, you can see I'm learning. He's teaching. It's priceless. That is priceless. Now, this is a young guy, 22 years younger than me. And I just texted Micah before this, and I said, Mike, I'm going to share your story with some friends today in Africa. Pray that God will use your life and your story to touch their hearts and lives. Micah, I started mentoring Micah when he was 32. He's 42 now, 41 or 42. He has 4 little babies, has a farm in Nashville, Tennessee. He's a real estate guy like me. And I encouraged him to use his talent, use his business platform to be the hands and feet of Jesus, bringing healing to the homeless people in his own city. So today he has bought 5 old buildings like this white one you see right here, totally refurbished them, added on to them, and he's built a chain of boutique hotels. But he operates them on a cash neutral basis. Every time you stay there, he takes all the profit and funds 5 different ministries right in town. If you stay there one night, a homeless person gets 16 nights free in a warm bed with a shower and clean clothes and clean towels and food, or 100 meals or 32 mobile showers for people. And this will go on in perpetuity. Here's the thing I want you to see is when you mentor, you're going to gain a compounding return because Micah is going to be doing this many, many years after I'm long gone. And his chain of hotels is going to only grow. And every night, it's sustainable. Every night, he's going to continue to extend God's love and compassion in the name of Jesus to suffering people in the city of Nashville. Even tonight, while I'm sleeping, the compassion continues. So what does it look like to become a great mentor? Well, first of all, be a mentee. I've been a mentee since I was 12. I had a gymnastics mentor. I had a business mentor. I got Bob as a life mentor. I've always had a mentor. But when you become a great mentor, it makes you a better parent. It makes you a better grandpa. If I could only invest in one kind of a person in my life, it'd be these 5 grandbabies. I mean, look at this little sweetheart. I have the privilege of investing in her life for 7 years so far. And I trust God will use that girl when she's a grown, godly woman to touch way more people's lives than I ever will. Becoming a great mentor means I can do a much better job as a grandpa. I ask better questions. I listen better. I'm able to share my wisdom in succinct packages. You become a better business leader. Business grows at the speed of trust. You become great at building trust. You become a better spouse. Linda is more cherished today than I think she's ever been. And we've been married for 43 years. You become a better friend. And you produce a compounding kingdom impact, a return on life. Now, Chris Crane and Chris is on the call here. We've been on this journey for 20 years together. And I've had the privilege of being a sounding board in his life as he's gone through iterations. He built an organization over the last 13 years called Edify, serving 28,000 schools, Christian schools across Africa. And this year, they'll impact 10 million children, helping to bring godly wisdom into those children's lives so they can become great entrepreneurs and leaders in Africa today. And Chris is just an ordinary bloke. He's just an ordinary guy like you and me, except he's tall. He's a lot taller than me, and smarter. But aside from that, we've worked on how do you get great at mentoring and discipling and coaching. And this is our best shot at what it looks like to become a sage mentor. It starts out as a well-intentioned mentor where you have personal experience. You react when someone comes and you give advice. You probably talk too much. You're encouraging, but you have a narrow expertise. We want to help you grow as a mentor, to be a developing mentor or a skilled mentor where you listen, you have profound, fruitful questions. Questions are more helpful than smart answers. You have analytical tools in your toolbox. You know how to help someone identify their blind spots. You bring empathy you might not have brought when you were younger. And then to learn actually deep listening skills. Deep listening is not just listening. It's seeing and hearing and sensing what may not even be said. You look at the whole person. You look into the eyes of their spouse and you get an assessment of how they're doing at cherishing their wife or respecting their husband. You bring your connections. You nurture them as a person. And we want to help you become transformational, where you're visionary, you're mentoring mentors, and you're curating tools that extend your reach long after you've ended up your conversation with somebody. And ultimately, to be a transcendent mentor, spirit-driven, sophisticated discernment that only God can provide. You know, the Bible says, call unto me, and I will answer you and show you things you could never figure out on your own. That's in Jeremiah. Call unto me, and I will answer. This is what I spend most of my time doing today. Lord, help me this morning understand how to help Mark, who used to manage 250,000 soldiers in the U.S. Army, take all he has and apply it to advancing your kingdom in the next 30 years. That's transcendent. And the Lord will guide you up this hierarchy, building on what you know and what you do right now. So we want to help you leverage your wisdom. The way you start investing in priceless things, the easiest thing that's right in front of you is to invest what you have already in those around you, starting with those you love, those that work for you, those in your neighborhood, your brother's children. You know, I have a list of 10 young men I'm investing in. I have a 90-minute block of time on my calendar every month. It just says, reach out to your 10 young men. These are just nephews and the children of my closest friends. And I limit it to 90 minutes, but you wouldn't believe over the last 7 years how much of their lives have been touched and transformed by simply blocking off 90 minutes as a reoccurring calendar appointment and putting their names down and their email and their cell phone number. That only took me 2 or 3 minutes to create, but it has helped transform 10 young men's lives. So here's a way to do it. Take a self-assessment. You don't know what you don't know. And the way to start is to say, well, how good am I at storytelling? How effective are you at building trust? How well do you distill your wisdom into bite-sized pieces? I remember Peter Drucker taught us so many things like, let your fruit grow on other people's trees. Now, that is a profound thought, but he distilled it into a phrase that you can remember. He said to Bob Buford, my mentor, he said, Bob, don't be an expert in people's lives. You can't be an expert in someone else's life. It's hard enough to be an expert in our own life. He said, you can bring expertise, but don't try to be that. He said, be the platform, not the show. Everything we create, Ardent Mentoring, the 100X Forum, we're the platform, not the show. That came because Peter Drucker distilled his wisdom into a bite-sized piece that I could digest and understand and memorize. Later on, he said Bob Buford invested a lot of his foundation money in the stock market. In early 2000, the tech bubble burst, and Bob lost 25% of the money he was planning to give away to advance God's kingdom. He told me he got on his knees and he said, Lord, it gives me no pleasure to lose your money. And then he went to see his mentor, Peter Drucker. And Peter Drucker said to him, Bob, remember, giving is not a result. Giving is not a result. Giving is an input, not an output. Change lives is an output. If you protect the Lord's money, he can compound the outcome. If you pay attention, if you look for leverage, if you get your guidance from him. But get this, he distilled his wisdom into that short phrase, giving is not a result. That's profound if you give yourself time to think about it. We can help you get good at it. So all you do is use this QR code, take the self-assessment tool. There's 7 core elements of becoming a great mentor, and we'll help you grow. And then secondly, try it out. You get good at mentoring through intentionality and practice. Try it out. We'll match you with one young mentee, and you'll have a good experience, and you'll grow and you'll learn. But then third, this is the most powerful part, is bring your enhanced mentoring into your whole life. Your son-in-law, your brother's children, the neighbor across the street that's 25 and struggling with their career, in your church, everywhere you look, you'll be able to bring enhanced skills. It's like evangelism stealth. It slides into someone's life and it blows up into the living water that changes them from the inside out. So we're going to stop there and just talk as friends. And Lionel, take us into this journey.
Wow. Thank you so much, Lloyd, for that powerful keynote. And I will give everyone an opportunity to ask questions. I won't even try to summarize it because I think it was so crystal clear. But again, leaders, this is your moment to engage. This session is not only as strong as the conversation we have together. Please put your questions in the chat and raise your hand so we can address them directly. But to just get us started, as you gather your thoughts and as you put your questions in the chat box so that I can address them one-on-one. I think there was a lot to digest. Very powerful delivery from Lloyd. Thank you very much. I'm going to kick off with some first questions here, just to jumpstart the discussion we're having today. And Scott, I'm going to pick on you because I think we need to bring this home, right, to Zimbabwe, right? So again, Scott, as someone who has integrated faith and business, why is mentorship so critical for leaders navigating complexities and challenges in an environment such as Zimbabwe?
Lionel, just before I answer that question, could I ask Lloyd to give a 1-minute answer to his little point on the 90 minutes once a month that he uses to mentor 10 kids close to him? Would you mind if I asked him that one?
Yes, please go ahead. Lloyd, over to you.
Yeah, Scott, all I do is I sit here quietly at this desk and I ask myself and I ask the Lord, what is this young man's biggest single risk? What's their biggest opportunity? What's the one most meaningful thing I could do to help him move forward? That only takes a minute, and you go down through the list, and you think Chris Fenzen. Okay, Chris Fenzen started a contracting business that remediates people's basement underground. It takes mold out. And gosh, he's so great at customer care, customer service, great quality, but he doesn't have good disciplines. He doesn't have good rigors. He needs an EOS type system. He needs some kind of an operating system. I know a great Christian guy I can connect him with who will help him with that. Chris, so quick test. Chris, check this out online. And then if you're interested, I'll introduce you to this guy, Joe could help you. See, so that's one. Then I get to Shane. Well,
So
actually, we
it's
just
not a half an hour phone call. It's
no, yeah.
intentionality.
Now, sometimes it leads to a longer call, but here's what
All
I
right.
found is if I said to myself, I'm going to mentor the 10 young guys that my brothers love and my friends love, it would be overwhelming. I wouldn't start. But by making it a commitment of 90 minutes with specific names and having their email and their phone right there is so helpful, because otherwise I'm groping around trying to figure out what is Chris Venzen's number, what's his, and I wasted the time, So anyway, that's a little hack that I use, because it seems monumental if you said, I'm going to invest in the 10, I asked myself, what's the most loving thing I can do for my brothers and my friends? Well, they don't need anything. So I realized, invest in their boys.
Yes.
And then it came overwhelming. I'm like, there's 10 of them. What could I possibly do? Well, 90 minutes. And lo and behold, I got a 3-paragraph email back from a kid that's a third year at University of Syracuse. How come? How's that kid have time to write a 3-paragraph letter to an old guy sitting over here? Well, because I've done this. It's trickle charge, right? I just invested in him.
Incredible. And so each month, do you get through all 10 of those kids in the 90 minutes?
I could, but very often I can't think of something that Shane needs. And so I might just send him a quick note saying, thinking of you, smiley face. I usually a touch point. And interestingly, 3 of them very seldom get back to me. Now, I got a choice. I can either get ticked off and go, look at me. I'm so important. What do they think? They don't respond to me.
I've had that with my grandchildren already.
Yeah. And guess what? Get off my high horse.
Exactly.
They're busy,
Exactly.
Just let it go.
Brilliant. No, and I can see Jacob and Roy, they live this themselves, and it's just going to enhance it. And it's just been a brilliant time. Lionel, thank you. I'll quickly answer your question, Lionel. I think your question is, why is this important in our context? Did I get the heart of it, Lionel?
Yeah, yes.
There's a scripture that I find extraordinary, and it's here in Mark 6, verse 3. Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary and brother of James and Judas and Simon? Are his sisters not here with us? How the incarnation was not just about Jesus being born into a manger and among the feces and urine of livestock, taking on human flesh and living in our mess. But the incarnation was outworked even in the marketplace, even in the day-to-day ordinary lives that we live, to the point that as Jesus began his ministry, his public ministry, he was confounding the people in the surrounding community and surrounding cities. Is this not the carpenter? He was known as the carpenter. And for us, Lionel, each person on this phone call, I would love each of us to delight in who we are. We may not be a multi-million-dollar property investment tycoon. We might be people that are operating in drive and taking people to different destinations. We may be starting a small business doing maputi. We may be running influential telecommunications company. Wherever we are known for what we are doing. And each of those has its worth in those things that are priceless. And I've made notes on what Lloyd was saying this evening. So Jesus, the glory of Jesus in that moment wasn't so much about how big his carpentry operation was, that can come and go, but how he handled himself, the integrity, the faithfulness with which he did what he did is what counts. So, Lionel, that's how I would answer it, is that this was relevant for Jesus at his time. This is what the incarnation means, to live God's word in the day-to-day, ordinary parts of our lives. And the measurement is not how big it is or how many million we touch, but to be faithful with what God has given us and let him multiply it. Those would be my thoughts, Lionel.
Well, that's quite deep. I always reflect on Judgment Day. You know, when that day comes, he's going to ask us, what did we do with the talents he gave us? So
Exactly.
I think these are very important points. I'm going to pick on a couple of questions on the chat box, and again directed to Lloyd. The question in the chat box here, Lloyd from Masango, he says, "I just wanted to ask, how do you trade valuable things for priceless ones?"
Well, one is, I take time every single week just dedicated to Linda, and not just set aside my business and not just set aside my ministry, but to actually be fully present with her with my phone off and to understand who she is and to understand what her dream is, what's her calling, what are the 10 things Linda loves the most in life, what are her fears, what's her love language. And that's intentionality. It takes time. It means you've got to set aside your focus on all the other accomplishments in your life. And so over the last 13 years, I take one day a week just to be with Linda. It's called a Linda Day. It's priceless because, not every Linda Day is a golden day. But out of 52 Linda days a year, I'll bet you 45 are golden days. Now, can you imagine having 45 golden days with your life partner that God put you with so that she really feels cherished? That's priceless, but it cost me something. It's one day out of the week. Now, not everybody has to do that one day a week, but taking time just to date your spouse, just to invest in them, to know what her love language is, what her strengths are, what her dreams are, how to get behind, how I use my strengths to get behind her. And then, for example, Ardent Mentoring. Every year I invest money in Ardent Mentoring. Well, it's taking something valuable and turning into something priceless. We are going to touch thousands of people's lives all over the world. And I can't take that money with me, can I? So there's really mechanical ways like writing a check, investing in a young mentee, loving your spouse. Those are three ways you can trade. But, one of the things we see people doing is sacrificing their health just to make money. That makes no sense. You're trading something priceless for something valuable. It makes no sense to sacrifice your health or your reputation, right? So those are some examples.
Thanks for that, Lloyd. I'm gonna kind of pass the mic to Ryan, and Ryan again. If we come back to Ardent Mentoring, Ryan, many CEOs keep asking, with such a busy schedule. I mean, folks are busy out in Zimbabwe. There's a lot going on, and the question here is, how does just 1 to 3 hours a month with a mentor create measurable business results? Can you share examples where this model delivered significant outcomes?
Phenomenal question, Lionel. And first off, I would say we are all too important, and the mentoring itself is too important, where our busyness must fit in the mentoring. If we really truly want to leave a legacy and make an impact, and we really want to be successful in the work we do and have sustained success in the business that overflows into our life, receiving mentoring, whether through Ardent or through somebody else, a faith community, a business community, wherever it be, mentoring itself is too important not to fit into your schedule. We're too busy not to dedicate time to learning from others because we don't know what we've yet to learn. And so I would really just encourage everyone to think deeply about, where are you learning from? Your continued learning is one of the most important parts of your success. And Lionel, the second part of the question, repeat it again for me, please.
Yeah, so I think can you give an example where, this model delivers significant outcomes?
Yeah. Earlier I said what is everyday wisdom is gold to our mentors for each mentee that we serve. And when you ask the question, how in 1 to 3 hours can I learn enough? I'll tell you, sometimes it's within 5 minutes of my mentoring session. I have had 33 mentoring sessions with my Ardent mentor over the last 3 years. And numerous ones of those, I can look back and go, this 5 minutes transformed my life. I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, but when I learned from one of my mentors to delegate authority, not tasks, I learned how detrimental to my business my micromanaging was. And it was just those words that I needed. And then I asked some questions, we went deeper, but I'll tell you, an hour is more than enough time. We have some mentees that just meet with their mentor for a half an hour. They're busy people. The journey is busy, but the gold that our mentors have to offer, the wisdom that they contain within themselves from their experience and their expertise, can be delivered in a matter of minutes. And so an hour is more than enough. And if you're able to dedicate a second hour or a third hour per month, the amount you're able to learn is in some sense unlimited. Now, that also comes from the fact that I encourage each one of us as mentees to prepare for our sessions, to bring questions, to pray before we go into them. Send agendas to your mentors that you're working with. Send them the questions so that they're prepared for your answers. The more prepared we are and the more we prepare our mentors, the more we can get out of our mentoring. And you'll see in our program, every time we onboard a mentee, we take them through a half an hour onboarding and we give them 3 specific resources: best practices, blueprints to build agendas, and an online interactive roadmap to track what they're learning, their action areas, and make 90-day goals, 60-day goals from their mentoring. So we give them these so they know how to get the most out of their mentoring. So I would say preparation is super important, Lionel, but within 1 to 3 hours a month, that's far more time than you need to learn what's going to make you successful and help you get unstuck.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Ryan. Lloyd, another question for you. I think, in a way you've addressed this in some way, but the question really is centered around, we know you've mentored leaders across different continents. What is the biggest single mindset shift that takes a leader from chasing success to building significance and legacy? What is that mindset shift?
Well, I think it really comes down to deciding what you want at the end of the day and recognizing that so much of what we're accumulating goes away. It just will go away when we leave this planet, and coming to grips with what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want the return on life? What will you be celebrating 100 years from now that you invested your time and energy into? Now, the thing that's really important to grasp is that doesn't mean you sell your company or leave your job and go join a nonprofit or something. One of the most highly leveraged ways to touch lots of people's lives is to build a great enterprise and start and keep growing it and generate cash flow. But what you, in your heart and in your family, you want to demote money from master to servant. Money is a terrible master, but a great servant. And that's a conversation you have with yourself and with the Lord and with your spouse and with your family. What we did in 1993, 32 years ago, was we decided to limit our lifestyle so that money it would be a firewall between our hearts and money. So it doesn't matter what God does with our wealth. It could go up, could go down. We're going to just keep our lifestyle modest. So we live in this house. We paid cash for this house a long, long time ago. We're content with what we have. But we're still trying to be great business people, great investors. I'm making an investment later today that I hope is a 2x in the next 3 years. Why? because money is a terrible master, but a great servant. We want to be focused on using our talents, not just to make money, but to invest in other people. And as the Lord grows our ability to give, we can give more strategically. We can give more carefully and wisely. So I would say, the big thing is to look at your enterprise and skills and see where you can add the most value, and then decouple your heart from the money so that you can be a clean conduit for the Lord and count on Him to just pump lots and lots of resources through your hands to bless other people. If you hold things like this, He can pour through you resources like you can't imagine, contacts, skills, and influence and money. And that's our dream, is that everybody on this call will be used by the Lord to produce 100 times what was sown into you.
Thank you for that. I'm going to pick, I'll be a little bit biased. I know this gentleman. I'm going to pick a question from Vili. He's writing us all the way from South Africa. And his question is, I think I'm going to direct this to Ryan. In your mentorship assignment program, how do you cultivate trust and integrity between mentors and mentees from the onset, ensuring these elements drive deeper commitment and genuine emotional care in relationships? From a personal experience, to best mentorship happens when relationships are true and mutual, and there's mutual trust. So I'm just reading it as it was written. That's for you, Ryan.
Wonderful. What a phenomenal question. Well written. A couple of thoughts I have. First off, when we onboard our mentors, like the Gospels were written, one thing I've always loved about the Gospels is they were written by people who walked with Jesus or those who walked with Jesus. There are some other books out there written by people who lived hundreds of years later that wrote them, and those weren't included in the scriptures. They were careful. So we're careful who we bring in as mentors. When we went to launch this company, the 4 co-founders, myself, Lloyd, Chris, who was on the call earlier, and Steve Soares, who was unable to join us today, he's traveling. The 4 of us, we brought our networks together, and we said our mentors are going to be from our personal networks. They're going to be people that we trust, and then we're willing to onboard those that they trust. We're not going to go too far outside of those 2 concentric circles. So we're onboarding mentors that we already trust, they have experience, and they have success in what they're mentoring within. And then secondly, every time we make a match, we're never forcing anybody to have that match, nor are we forcing them to continue within that match. So first, we're going to send a mentee a profile with some links and some information about their potential mentor. They can click on those links, they can read everything we send them, and they get back to us and say, yes, Ryan, I'm open to a free introductory call with my mentor. So we're going to give them a completely free, no cost up to 60 minutes with their mentor to get to know them, ask some constructive critical questions, make sure they're the right mentor for them in terms of their expertise, in terms of their in terms of being able to trust them. And then along the way, you're never stuck. Even if you choose that mentor and you sign up for a mentoring plan with us and it's going well and something were to change, the moment you email me and say, hey, I need a new mentor, we don't push back and say, we might ask why, but if you're like, I just need a new mentor, great, we will transfer you to a new mentor. So along the way, we're here to serve. My life verse is when Jesus said, I came to serve, not to be served. I have really worked to dedicate my life in everything I do. I need to provide for my family, but whether I've worked in a for-profit or a nonprofit, I dedicate my life to serving. And so to each one of you on the call, we're here to serve you, to see you be successful. Our success is your success. And so if there's anything you need along the way, don't hesitate to ask. Same to go with the pricing, Lino. We're giving that 50% discount. But I often understand that cash flow and revenue, which our pricing model is based off of, can be different at times. So I was on with someone that emailed me this morning and they said, hey, Ryan, I need a discount for 3 months. I'm having some financial trouble. No problem at all. I trust them. I've built a relationship with them and I'm trusting that they're being honest with me, and we were able to give them that discount. So we're here to serve in every way. And that's how a little bit of how we make sure that we supply trust in between the mentor and the mentee. And last but not least, if you need an NDA signed, our mentors are happy to sign an NDA with you.
Wow. Thank you for that. There's a question here from Leslie. I like this question. It's written with all sincerity. Leslie says, I'm a small business owner with no experience in being mentored, let alone mentoring someone else. How do I get to start to contribute? And where do I get guidance and training? That's for you, Ryan, again.
Yeah, Lionel, I think of Kazuai, who you just introduced me to. And
Yeah.
he happens to be a successful business person within his own way. But he said, I want to learn to be a coach. I want to learn to be a mentor. He said, I'm actually not coming to you for the benefit of my business. I've been successful in my business. I have a mentor there. Can you teach me how to mentor? Yes, we are connecting him with a very successful mentor, with a very successful coach, so he can learn that. So, Leslie, I would say to you that we're dedicated to working with impact-driven entrepreneurs. And if you come to us as an entrepreneur or as a leader and you're looking to pour back into others and learn about mentoring, how to be a good mentee, how to be a good mentor, we would love to serve you. You can gain that learning through our program.
Yeah. Another question for you, Lloyd, here. Lloyd, the question is, one of the challenges in our context, that is Zimbabwe, right, is the pressure of providing bread and butter issues for their family. Do you ever go through a season in your entrepreneurial journey where there was financial lack? How did you navigate staying true to building the business and staying grounded on protecting the priceless things?
Yeah, well, every culture and every context is somewhat different, even across the United States or in Canada. I'm Canadian, so you face different situations, different industries. In my industry, as a real estate developer, that building that I showed, the picture I showed, we got about 3 months into building that, and the bank reneged on their commitments. And so we had a lot of money invested. The project was in construction. We were under incredible stress, right? And I remember we had somebody bid on doing some custom railings for us. They were going to weld up custom railings for us. I could tell that they didn't know how to do the takeoff on the building plans. They were underestimating what it was going to cost them. They were going to lose money on the job. There's a situation where you got to choose between the money that you could save by taking a low bid that is poorly qualified, and your reputation. And in that case, I didn't do the right thing. I took the low bid knowing that this person was probably going to lose money on the job. And so at 32, I learned the hard way, because I had to go back to him and say, look, I knew that you were underbidding. You didn't know how to calculate the cost of steel and welding. And here's the difference. Now, did I have a legal right to do it? No, but the Bible says a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. That's a straight up equation. Don't trade your reputation for something valuable. Don't trade your priceless reputation for something valuable. So in every business, you're going to have opportunities to trade your health, to trade your reputation, to trade your time with your kids for just more money. And there's pressure. So as a real estate developer, every project puts you on your knees. And so every project I've ever done, I've gotten to a place where, I remember my very first land development. I was 21 years old. I bought 18 acres, which is, if you work in hectares, it's probably 3 hectares or 4 or whatever. And I was going to build 18 homes on it. And I went to, there was a public meeting to get the approval, and 36 neighbors showed up to oppose the project. And in the middle of that, I went out to my car and I pounded the steering wheel and I said, Lord, you have got to help me. I have no idea how to do this. I got all my money tied up. If this doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I went back in. And the chairman of the council said, okay, everybody, the public meeting is over. I'll let you go. And Lloyd, we want you to sit up here at the table. And I sat up at the table and he said, now listen, we think you're going to be a great developer one day in our town. So we're going to approve this project, but don't you screw it up. And this was a great example to me of, if there has been any success in my career, all the swagger goes out the window when I remember sitting in the car, pounding the steering wheel, desperately asking the Lord to help me. Please help me. I'm going to fail. And this is the joy of being a Christian business woman or man, is we get to come to him with our enterprise and put it out like this and say, this is your business. I'm going to need your help to succeed. And when I do, I'm going to use the influence, the cash. I'm going to use the platform for you to not only deliver great service, but to influence the lives and hearts and eternities of the people that we touch. And that was a lesson I learned as a 21 or 22-year-old developer, that when I walked back into that room, if there was any swagger, any arrogance, it went out the window, because why were you just out in the car pleading with God for help if you're such a smart guy?
Wow. Thank you for that, Lloyd. We've actually run out of time, and there's a request that has come through, which is, can we please extend the time? Because I can see the chat box is full. There's a lot of enthusiasm and all that. Just wanted to check with the panelists if this is okay. Ryan, is this okay with you?
Yes, I have some more time. I don't know. Lloyd might need to jump off. I don't know your schedule, Lloyd.
I have a few more
Lloyd,
minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe before
another 5 minutes will be priceless.
Yeah. So maybe, Lloyd, before we have you jump off, and we'll probably continue as you leave the stage. There's a question here, Lloyd, which is coming from me, which is, if every CEO took one mentoring action tomorrow, what should it be?
I would build the skill of asking fruitful questions. Last time I was with Jim Collins, who writes business books like Good to Great and Built to Last. I asked him, what are you learning? I mean, what are you learning? 4 words. What are you learning? That's a profound question. And he said to me, this year, I'm learning how to give people access to their body of knowledge. And I asked him to explain it. And it was interesting, as he said, the next generation's not going to read this book and then that book and then this book and then that book, and then they're not going to do that. So I have to come up with a way to figure out how to give them easy access to the 20-mile march or whatever the big idea is. And if you go to jimcollins.com now, you'll see that's exactly what he's done. And I believe that single question helped him gain more clarity about what he was working on by simply asking him, what are you learning? I remember Bob Buford asked me that question, what are you learning, once? And my mind scrambled. I thought, Lionel, I sure hope I'm learning something. That was my first thought. And then I realized I'm learning contentment. And I told him I'd changed all my passwords to a derivative of contentment. And then I'd find myself typing it real fast. Oh my gosh, why did I pick such a long password? In other words, I wasn't content with my password. And what he did by just asking me that question was it distilled down in my mind. Yes, I am learning, because the Bible says godliness plus contentment equals what? Great gain. There's no other written guarantee for great gain that I've ever seen in the world. If you want a guarantee for gain, they'll give you a small guarantee, maybe 2% or 1%, whatever it is, treasury bills. If you want great gain, then all bets are off. No, but the Bible says godliness plus contentment equals great gain. So do you see the power of that one question? I would become expert at asking well-curated questions.
Wow, that's very powerful.
Lionel,
maybe,
may I add to that from the mentee side?
Yeah, go ahead. Right.
Active listening. when you're sitting with a great mentor, such as Lloyd himself, who's asking great questions, you must not be distracted. You must be prepared to take notes in an orderly fashion. You must make sure that you return questions if you don't understand something. You must work to read between the lines and the questions being asked of you, but active listening. When I'm being mentored by Lloyd, I get the opportunity to be mentored by Lloyd on a semi-regular basis. I am making sure I prep for the sessions. I come ready with my questions, but I'm always more eager for the questions he have, and I'm making sure that I'm learning active listening. And I'm sure if you type how to, what is active listening? How do I learn about active listening into whatever AI you're using these days? It will give you a lot to learn about active listening. I started in 2007 and I was still talking with my wife last week going, honey, I promise you, I will learn active listening better and better each day for our relationship because it works in business, it works at home, it works in marriage. And now I am teaching my kids, but so important as a parent to actively listen to our children. They're curious, they're discovering. And if I want them to be the great people I want them to be, I need to learn to listen to them and in turn teach them to listen.
Wow, thank you. Lloyd, you've given us so much, and I don't know how much we can thank you for your time. And obviously, we're gonna continue with this session. But I just wanted you to know something. You know, I've worked and lived in many countries across Africa and across the world. And I can tell you there's no beautiful country like Zimbabwe. And I say that with all sincerity. It's an amazing country. And I'll let a secret out in the bag. And we're going to try and find you to make your way to Zimbabwe and visit us. And we want to invite you to Rivers of Life. We want to invite you to hang out. So we're intentionally, working our way to get you home to the motherland, Zimbabwe, which is a great country. Can you give us one parting shot for us in Zimbabwe that you can leave with us as you think about our country, as we pray for us, and as you think of the great people in this room? What's your parting shot to us? What message would you want to leave with us in Zimbabwe?
I would just say have courage to count on the your partnership with the Spirit of God to change people's lives. I had the privilege of coaching or mentoring Hardy, that who's a dear friend there, and what I've watched in his life is courage to lead a large, effective enterprise in a way that honors God and is making a great contribution to the economy. And he has the courage to believe that God can use him in a business setting to make a huge impact that he may not be able to make in a nonprofit or a church setting, and just have the courage to lean into the power of the Spirit of God to use you to change people's hearts and lives in Zimbabwe.
Thank you for that. Indeed, we're going to have courage, and Zimbabwe has a lot of courage. But Lloyd, words cannot express the gratitude we have for you taking time to be with us today. And may God bless you and guide you. And we're looking forward to hosting you in Harare, in Zimbabwe, at Rivers of Life. Thank you very
That's
much.
kind of you. Thank you, Lionel. Bye now.
Thanks,
Okay.
Lloyd.
Okay.
So good.
Yeah. Thank you. So we're gonna stay on and continue our conversation. And what I'm going to do now is pick a few questions and kind of take this up, right? So I think there's a question in the chat box that's coming in, and this is and I'm going to direct this to Ryan and Scott, if you don't mind. I think jump in as and when necessary. But there's a question from Chazla here, and she says, how do you balance enterprise wanting to be productive financially and leaving a legacy with the concept of being content with what you have and storing up your riches in heaven? So I pass that on to you, Ryan.
Oh, okay. I thought you were having Scott go first. Was that a question written in the chat?
Scott,
Yeah, it's written in the chat.
second.
Yes. Scott is going to go second,
Scott is going to go second.
Yes, yes.
I see the question. I see the question now. Well, I think it starts in your planning. I think a lot of the time we spend the majority, if not all of our time, looking to be productive financially. It's a great need. Taking care of our families, taking care of ourselves is a great need, and it's not easy around the world. Jobs are limited. Entrepreneurship is hard. Investments are limited. So I think it starts in the planning that I make sure when I think about legacy, I look at the Lord, whether it's a tithe of my time, a 10% of my time or greater, I dedicate it towards leaving a legacy. I make sure that regardless of where I've been financially, I've had years in my life where I've made very little money. I wasn't that successful. I've had years in my life where I've done better. I sit in a different place than Lloyd in terms of financial success, but I'm working to make sure that that does not affect the success I have in leaving a legacy. Setting aside the time is the number one most important thing. And then I think there's a second belief, having faith that your service to others, the service that you do to build a legacy, will open up the doors to being productive financially. I can't tell you how many times I've gone and volunteered at an organization, given my time, and I had zero intention, zero understanding that what it would produce for me, but I met somebody or I learned something or, I saw something in somebody else that I wanted to repeat. And along that way, that helped me to being productive financially. And then last but not least, I would encourage you to be generous. The story in the Bible is the woman with just 2 pennies. And the Lord looked at her and said, how incredible is her generosity? I've helped my children start to be generous with their money. I think generosity produces abundance. I think generosity leads to provision. So I encourage you, regardless of what you have with your time, with your talent, and with your treasure, begin being generous if you're looking to be productive financially. And then last but not least, find a mentor who's an expert in the work that you're doing and help and make sure they're a successful mentor and ask them, what are the steps to success? We must go learn from those who have gone before us. I started when I was just in college. And I'm not that old, so I know I can say this to you, Lionel, but I started when I was just in college in 2001, and I grabbed a mentor. I'd just become president of of a fraternal organization in a college. No fraternal organization in my college had ever won most improved organization. There was 262, and I said, I'm going to win that by the time I graduate. So I grabbed a mentor and I said, help me be successful. Teach me your ways. And most importantly, tell me where I'm missing it. We so often want answers to our questions, and yet we're so unwilling to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong? Where am I missing it? We just want the answers to how we're being successful so we can go do it and be successful. But often we must correct our ways along the way. And that's incredibly how a mentor has helped me. Every step along the way, I've had mentors that will challenge me and show me what I don't understand, what I'm missing, what I'm doing wrong, and where I'm diverting off the path that I want to be on. That would be my answer, Lionel. I hope it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I just want to be respectful of time. So what I want to do is start closing up. I want to just thank all the speakers, and I think Lloyd was exceptional, and definitely Ryan, you taking time and delivering this, and I'm looking forward to the partnership and relationship that we have. And we're looking forward to hosting you again in Zimbabwe. And Scott, thank you so much for allowing us and giving us the space to do this, and giving us that latitude to be able to do that. And I just want to, kind of close off by saying, what we've heard today is very clear. Mentorship is not just a leadership tool, but it's a catalyst for transformation. It really sharpens leaders, strengthens businesses, and creates a legacy that outlives us. With that, I now want to hand over to none other than Roy and Jacob, who will close out by sharing 3 key clear steps that we need to take as we leave this session today. I hand over to you, Roy and Jacob.
Great. Thanks so much, Lionel, Ryan, Lloyd, Scott. That was I mean, that was fodder
Amazing.
for life. Absolutely amazing. So, Roy, we've been talking about mentorship for about the last 2 years.
2 years.
And we're
Yeah.
talking about mentoring next gen. Did you ever think that we'll come to a place where we'll be actually talking about mentorship, not only for next gen, but for CEOs?
Jacob, when I listen to the quality of the conversation that we've had, if you're in a boardroom in Zimbabwe today and you've got a PowerPoint slide that has the name Peter Drucker on it, you sound powerful and you sound like you know your stuff. But to imagine that we are talking to people whose legacy is Peter Drucker, and listening to people who talk about Jim Collins as the guy you phone. The last meeting I had with my team, I recommended a book from him to say, go and read. They can only see the book. So to talk about people who are experiencing this at this level is amazing, Jacob. And I see the power of God that for the last 2 years, we've been saying to ourselves, we want to have a mentorship model that allows us to pioneer for the next generation in churches, to be able to platform for the whole of Africa and churches across the world, how to shepherd and to steward the next generation. And to be at a platform like this, where even for me as a seasoned leader, listening to this and taking notes and walking away with gems such as, don't trade something priceless for something that is valuable. For me, that is life-changing, Jacob. And I walk away from this conversation knowing that my leadership style is going to be different and the way I lead is going to be different. And I hope for those of you who are part of my team who are on this call, actually experiencing the difference in my leadership style. And it's good that you're on a platform where you can actually see why that is the case. And that's why I've invited you here. Jacob, we've been talking about the Hangout. Please just tell us about the Hangout, next gen, and what the next steps are from this conversation that we've just had.
Sure, Roy, thanks very much. So the Hangout is an initiative that started off at River of Life Church, but it's a multi-denominational initiative across different churches, and we're impacting right across Zimbabwe, and we see God calling us to impact beyond the borders of Zimbabwe to everyone, all young people in Africa. It is young people. It is all about reaching, raising, and releasing young people into positions of influence through creating God-centered, purpose-driven communities that will enable them not only grow spiritually, but also shaping their skills within community, the marketplace, in homes, and in families. And that is what it's all about. With the statistics in Africa showing that Africa's population will double by 2050, that 70% of sub-Saharan Africa is under the age of 30, that by 2030, 42% of the world's youth will be in Africa. And by 2050, Africa will have the world's workforce is 40%. We believe that we have this call. We're responsible for this raising of the next generation. And that is what the Hangout is all about. And Roy, to answer the questions on what is next steps. So the next steps, if you are a CEO or business leader, we're warmly inviting you to join the Ardent Mentoring by logging onto www.ardentmentoring.org for you to be mentored by the CEOs that Ryan has spoken about.
And you've put that in the chat. So if you want to just log on to the link in the chat, you'll be able to go to the site.
Exactly, 100%. So that's in the chat for you. And also, I think it'll be coming. There we are. Okay, there we go. It'll be coming up on your screen in a moment. And also, if you are interested in share, okay, that is not the correct one. There we go.
Okay,
If you're interested in investing and in mentoring the next generation, there is a phone number on your screen. If you could take that one down, you'll be able to reach us and we'll be able to get back to you. And those would be the key steps. Roy, it's actually 2 steps. One, register with Ardent Mentoring. Would love to be a part of your journey as Ardent Mentoring. And the second one, if you want to commit to mentoring next generation, please do connect with us on that number.
Excellent. Thanks, Jacob. And what I love about it is just the faith aspect and the gems that we've received from the Bible about how we as marketplace leaders can be impactful in our calling and in our mission within where we are stationed to impact not only our leadership capacity, but also to impact the next generation. So it's highly impactful, Jacob. And I leave with these gems that business grows at the speed of trust. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some powerful gems. With that, we bring the evening to a thank you so much to Ryan, Lionel, Lloyd, Scott, and Logan, who was behind the scenes, and our next generation who are sitting right across the room over there. It is for them that we're doing this. God bless you and have a good evening.
Thank you.